and welcome. This webinar is a collaboration between the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, VA Center for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, CFBNP, and Veterans Health Administration, Office of Caregiver Support Program. My name is True Lester Pauling. I will be your moderator this afternoon. Everyone's phone has been muted. If you have a question during the presentation today, please type it in the Q&A box on the right of your screen. I will read the questions at the end of the presentation, and the presenter will provide a response. The presentation will be made available to everyone who joined the webinar today. This is a live recording. I would like to thank Mr. Joseph Burks for this collaboration. We are grateful for your time today. The director for the VA Center for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships is Mr. Conrad Washington. Unfortunately, he was unable to be with us today. So at this time, I would like to introduce our presenter for today, Mr. Joseph Burks. Please read a summary of his bio on the screen. Mr. Burks serves as the Director of Communications for Veterans Affairs, National Caregiver Support Program, CSP. Preceding his VA career, Mr. Burks served in the United States Army for 20 years, where he was a physical therapist, Army Medical Service Corps officer, executive officer with the National Guard Homeland Security Detail, special assistance to the Deputy Surgeon General, and served in Afghanistan, serving as the Chief of Medical Operations for Combined Joint Task Force 1. During combat, Joe was the recipient of 2 Bronze Star medals and the Combat Medical Badge. At this time, I give you our presenter for today, Mr. Joseph Burks.
Thank you, True Lester. I appreciate that introduction, and good to see all of you online today. Make sure that we can all hear each other, and we'll get started. I want to say what a pleasure it is to be with you to provide an overview of the Caregiver Support Program. You saw a video earlier. All we did was want to set the stage with that opening video to highlight the first in Caregivers First. If we go back in time, the noble dream of providing care for the nation's patriots began as a simple idea to simply fill a need in the midst of war in 1863. The public wanted it, our veterans needed it, and our nation's leaders legally authorized it on March 3rd of 1865. There was no model to follow, and this kind of veteran care didn't exist anywhere in the world. What was created was unprecedented, and that is how VA began. The healthcare system has grown from 54 hospitals in 1930 to now include 150 hospitals, 800 community-based outpatient clinics, 126 nursing homes, and over 35 domiciliaries. While VA has provided service and support for veterans all these years, we now at Caregiver Support get to provide service and support for the other heroes, and those heroes are our caregivers. Before we start today, I'm going to ask you a question. Right? You don't have to answer that. You don't have to physically answer that right now, because probably this answer will get itself answered during the presentation. Right? This question, and be thinking about this, how many of you believe you are a caregiver? I'm showing you right now on the screen, this is Cindy and her son, Joe. Joe's a veteran. He is 38 years old and served during the Persian Gulf War era. In 2009, while in the Navy, Joe was catastrophically injured in a motorcycle accident. He is 100% service connected with a history of traumatic brain injury and the fracture of the spine at C1. He has partial paralysis, neurogenic bladder and bowel, and aphasic with several other chronic medical conditions. To say it short, Joe is total care, his limited ability to communicate. His caregivers are his parents, who are also his legal guardians. Joe and his parents reside in an accessible home, which they actually built to accommodate Joe's needs. Both parents quit working some time ago to become the veteran's full-time caregiver. Joe's mom and dad use regular respite, which is one of those programs we'll get to talk about, to be able to leave Joe with the oversight for them to run errands, go out to eat, spend time as a couple, do crafts, other things like that, or sometimes just work around the house while someone else is providing supervision for Joe. Cindy was quick to share that sometimes respite is used. It's used sometimes to just step away, sit on the deck, drink a cup of coffee, maybe a glass of tea. It's also necessary, she says, for everyone. Cindy feels that her ability to sustain her caregiving role can be attributed to the assistance she receives from regular routine respite and other caregiver support services. She feels so strongly about this that she just recently encouraged her mom to seek out respite services and caregiver support program to support her providing care for her 90-year-old plus veteran husband. I'm telling you this story because we had the pleasure of interviewing Cindy in late March. Got to meet her son, got to meet her family, got to meet their caregivers. And what we're doing with that interview is creating a really nice video of her journey. And we'll be sharing that in June with our respite, which is our resource of the month at that time. Folks, I just need to let you know this is why we exist. Just like you heard in Cindy's story, there are many positive impacts in the caregiving journey. Note, there is a sense of fulfillment with caregiving, connecting with others in similar journeys, feeling needed, having a role, learning a lot about oneself and even what's important in life. And what I like to say when we're out and about, people will be like, well, I don't need a caregiver right now. I'm a veteran. I'm doing okay. And that may be the truth. And it may be fine and well, but there could be that day as a veteran, as we continue to get older and older and our needs become larger and larger, there's a day that we may need that caregiver. So I don't ever want to leave that off the table in talking about our program for others. Hang on just a second with me. There we go. All right. Sorry, folks. Obviously, with those impacts, there are other impacts as well. There are some studies out there, and we won't go into all the details with that, but when they focus on military and veteran caregivers, there's a higher stress level, like Cindy had shared with us. There are higher levels of depression amongst caregivers. There's strain, decline on your physical health as a caregiver. And then this survey, whenever it was sent out, showed 23% of caregivers reported worsened health, and they're finding it difficult to care for their own healthcare needs. And that's our biggest support in this entire program is we take care of the veterans very well. We need to take care of our caregivers so that they can be there for their veterans. And then 21% of them felt alone. And there's Cindy's story, and when we were interviewing, we could really hear that from her prior to caregiver support, just how alone she felt in her journey. Going to walk through our history a little bit. I talked about the VA and where it started some 150 years ago. History on us. In late 2007, as military operations in Afghanistan and Iraq progressed, the provision of services and supports for family caregivers of veterans seriously injured in these conflicts moved to our forefront. With the conflicts, new challenges presented themselves to our service members returning from combat with serious injuries that may have actually been fatal in many of the previous conflicts. These service members required personal care services, which are often provided by family members and loved ones. In recognition of this significant challenge, in 2010, Congress enacted the Caregivers and Veterans Omnibus Health Services Act. It's basically Public Law 111-163. You guys can look that up at any point. We'll also have this information for you through the slides, requiring VA to establish specific supports for caregivers of veterans. During that, two programs were established. One, we have the program of general caregiver support services and also the program of comprehensive assistance for family caregivers. We'll talk about the differences in those a little bit later on during this presentation. Collectively, we refer to these as the two components of the one program, which is caregiver support. PCAFC, that's the comprehensive, was established and created for family caregivers of eligible veterans who had that serious injury incurred or aggravated in the line of duty. So a little over 12 years ago, the program began officially accepting applications into that comprehensive program. In 2018, the VA Mission Act came around. Most of us are familiar with that, and it required VA to expand eligibility for the Family Caregivers Program to caregivers of veterans of all eras, and we did that in a phased approach. It established new benefits for designated primary family caregivers and other changes that affected program eligibility and VA's evaluation of PCAFC applications. Again, that's the comprehensive. This expansion, like I said, was implemented in two phases. Phase one, where the veterans that were seriously injured in the line of duty before May 7th, 1975, became eligible as of October 1, 2020. And in phase two, as of October 1st, 2022, veterans of all eras were eligible to apply. So the history I just shared, I'm throwing up here right now. You see the VA mission statement, and you also see our mission statement. So the history, among other countless reasons, are why I am honored to serve in the Caregiver Support Program. We get to reach caregivers who care for the nation's veterans across this country. As you can see, caregivers are now officially in VA's mission statement, and that wasn't always the case if we look back years. VA has made the promise to care for those who served our nation, but also made the promise to care for their families, caregivers, and survivors. Our mission at CSP, Caregiver Support, is to promote the health and well-being of these family caregivers. We do that through education, we do it through resources, we do it through support and services. We have a wide range of these services and supports, folks, and these are available to our caregivers. The way we frame our support, we offer in the following categories. We have skill training, we have online and mobile support, one-on-one coaching, group, we have peer support mentoring, we have resources and referrals. We work diligently to get the right support to each and every caregiver at the right time where they are. Within the next few slides, we'll actually take a further look at some of these supports and walk you through those. So I talked about the skills training. They're here to help caregivers develop the skills they need to care for the veteran in their life. And some of those include VA Safe for caregivers. We know that caregivers play an important role in suicide prevention. They're one of the first responses to that at the home, and in helping their veterans get through some of those crises that they're facing. They may be the first to notice changes in the veteran, or maybe the one that the veteran turns to when having those kind of thoughts. VA Save is training that provides information on steps anyone can take when a veteran may be at risk for suicide. It is critically important that caregivers have the tools they need to intervene. It's not an easy situation to enter, but we want to equip our caregivers to be confident whenever they do enter that situation. We've also linked a suicide prevention toolkit for caregivers, and that's available on our website. And again, we're actually making more and more improvements to that as we speak right now. I've got a team updating that. So that'll come out shortly on our website to kind of replace the one that's there. And the one that's there, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. It's all current. We're just making some improvements. Yeah, you see up here CPR for caregivers. Many of our sites are offering CPR, which is a really, really neat and popular thing that we're doing here at Caregiver Support. It supports the goal of having a lifesaver in every home. And there are times our veterans are living with just family on their own, not getting out much. And for us to equip our caregivers to potentially save a life or at least sustain until an ambulance or professional help can get there is huge. And this is taken off across our country in a big way. We've developed on our website, which again, you guys would see that and we'll be able to share that with you. There's a short video on hands-only CPR, and that was in partnership with the Red Cross. We have two other initiatives with CPR, and again, all are available and being shared. Matter of fact, in early June, there will be a VA news story coming out, and if you all have access to that VA news, it's open to the public, it's shared across the nation. Our partnership with SimLearn and the Red Cross and CPR. Take the next slide here. Some other supports here. Not all caregivers can come to some of these in-person offerings, so we make other supports available to them at their fingertips. You see here, this is anti-text messaging, and who doesn't like a text message from a family, friend, somebody just encouraging them, and maybe it's just random and out of nowhere, but it's still something special to be seen and read. This is Annie, and Annie sends text to our caregivers on self-care. She'll send out automatic text on tips and inspirations. What our caregivers have told us is it feels like a text from a supportive friend. So we want to keep that in place and keep improving that program for us. One of the examples we have is like the text will say, "Hey, don't second guess yourself today. Trust the healthcare team. Trust yourself. You're doing the right thing by helping your loved one." And then it's signed by Annie. We have Building Better Caregivers, which that's a 6-week online workshop. It's self-paced. You have facilitator guidance with it, and there's also group support. It's an access to an alumni community for many of our program graduates. So those who have left the program and moved on, they stick around and help others that are coming into the program. One of our biggest things there is our CSP website library. There are tons, tons, tons of fact sheets, frequently asked questions, information, one-pagers. They're available on our website. We have dementia series. We have videos on how to safely transfer folks. A lot of our veterans are in their home again with just their caregiver, and so we've created a series of safety transfer videos, just pretty popular in what we're doing. We also support caregivers with one-on-one coaching, and many of them talk about this being one of their highlights, getting that single one-on-one coaching to help them through this process is huge. We have caregiver health and well-being coaching. That's a whole health, whole person approach, focusing on what matters to you, the caregiver. So again, what matters to you, it's not what's the matter with us, not what's the matter with me, but what matters to me. Focuses solely on the caregiver, what they want for their health, what they need to help motivate them by the things they value most. The coach guides the caregiver through identifying their needs, setting goals, and working towards obtaining those goals. We have resources for enhancing all caregivers' health, which is called Reach VA. In other words, it's also individual coaching. So, coach works with the caregiver directly to target the problem, behaviors, challenges that the caregiver is facing with the veteran. Coach helps them develop specific strategies through this intervention that assist the caregiver in their role while also providing support to that caregiver. Coaching helps caregivers enhance skills, provides a community, and reducing stress, sense of isolation. Again, we talked about that with Cindy, being less isolated and more included in all we do. Coaching available for specialty populations such as PTSD, dementia, MS. So, and we're able to tailor some of that coaching to the specific needs seen by our veteran. Then we also have the one-on-one clinical support. And that's our caregiver support clinical staff offering support based on the clinical needs of the caregiver from a person-centered approach. Those include active listening, emotional support, assistance with coping skills, and other things such as that. Caregiving, as we said, can be an isolating experience. Through many of our groups, we can help caregivers feel less alone and learn from each other. They can do that through Reach VA, the same coaching and self-care skills we've talked about in the last slide, but in a group setting versus one-on-one. They can learn practice skills in a group setting and share idea tips with peers. Caregivers First, which is that video that we shared with you to lead out. And again, the reason I did that is we put caregivers first in all we do, and I just thought it was appropriate to show you our Caregiver First video. It's an evidence-based caregiver skills group training program. Its goal is connecting caregivers with each other and the resources. It helps them feel more confident, capable, and supported in their caregiving role. This group is often best received by caregivers who are in a new role in caregiving or new to the VA. We see that as big win for them. We also have self-care and wellness courses such as Practicing Your Way to Resilience series. We have Wellness Through Mindfulness. We have self-care courses for caregivers, and some of those examples are Handling Emotions, lowering stress, improving mood, problem solving, and effective communication. So we just sent out our resource of the month for May, and one of those topics I don't really even have here, but caregiving with children and how difficult that can be. So we've put that out there for our May resource as a lot of these families get ready to go into the summer months. And then, of course, support groups. These can be in person. Some are closed groups. Some can be drop-in. Some are virtual. And then obviously there are hybrids to all of those as well. Some groups are based on specific disease or topic, again, as in PTSD, Parkinson's, TBI. Think of something kind of like book clubs are out there. They join up for those. There's crafts and connection. There's coffees. There's chats. So much going on for our support groups. There are also some things only someone who has walked a similar journey can understand. And knowing that is why we created our peer support mentoring groups. This is the power of peer support mentoring. It matches caregivers with trained mentors, another caregiver who might be further along in their journey to help share their experiences and walk beside somebody. And in my experience, it's always better to walk through something with someone versus on my own and by myself. So our peer support mentors are there for our caregivers. It offers fellowship, networking, and often decreases the sense of isolation that our caregivers feel. We have staff, and just for the numbers, we have about 2,500 caregiver support staff throughout the nation. Every VA medical center, and I'll say that again a little bit later, but every VA medical center has a caregiver support team. So if you're close to a VA, you are close to to a caregiver support team. What our staff help with is connection to the resources. CSP staff has subject matter expertise in caregiving and in all of these caregiving resources. They help caregivers connect to the services and support that best meet the caregiver's need at the VA and in the community. Our annual caregiver family resource fair, and we're super proud of this. Every November nationally, VA and the nation shares a National Family Caregiver Month. And throughout November, and that's been the past, but it's now throughout the entire year. But in November specifically, there are events going on nearly every VA medical center out in the community. We were in we went to several of them last year from the national program. We went to Orlando and watched what they did. Really creative drive through. And one of the reasons they did that, many caregivers, as we know, they're in a situation medically where they can't always get out um, on their own. So these caregivers put them in their vehicles, and there was just a huge drive through at the Orlando VA of veterans and caregivers coming through and just being thanked. A really neat, there were flowers given to them. There were cookies, treats, snacks, just like a gift bag. Really proud of our Orlando team for doing that. Many of our local teams partner with their local churches during some of these events, which I really like. We'll find a lot of veterans in our churches, and with them come caregivers as well. My goal would be that every local team across this nation would partner with their churches. As you and I both know, the church is often the greatest community of support. Earlier when we introed with Cindy and Joe, we talked a lot about respite. So respite this year, we pushed our teams to prioritize it. Informal respite. We're talking about friends, family, church, neighbors. And then there's formal respite as well, and that's paid professionals that come into the home. Even internal, where the caregiver does not need to rely on anyone for the support, basically grabbing a mindful moment with tea on the porch, for example, but being intentional about it and scheduling it. And let me say a little bit more about that. Even if you don't have someone coming into the house to give you respite, we still provide education and tips and resources for our caregivers to say it's okay to step away and go have a moment of respite on their own without somebody formally being in the house. We've got a respite tool right now, and it's designed to help caregivers incorporate respite into their daily lives. The tool helps them find, remember what brings them joy. Sometimes caregivers can often lose sight of this, taking care of their veteran. And as the caregiver role can be consuming, we want to remind them that they must find a way to take care of themselves throughout this. It guides caregivers to consider what they do and when they need respite, and then to take action on the steps needed for the success of that respite. And this tool is available on our website. And again, we're always updating and making things better and better. A lot of these things you'll hear and be able to find out more information from our caregiver support line. And what you see on your screen there, not too long ago, we celebrated our 1 millionth call into the caregiver support line. It was really, really exciting. We kind of surprised the team. We didn't let anybody know that this was coming. We knew that a million call was coming, but we were keeping track of that particular staff member who received that 1 millionth call. And what a great story that came out of it. An elderly lady, I believe from Florida, and she just wanted to know about the program. And within that call itself, she was led to the resources to apply for the program. Very quickly after that was put into the program with her husband. And just a good moment for us to share that 1 millionth call. But I want to remind folks that it's not a VA hotline number. And it's also not the suicide prevention hotline. We have to make that clear. This is available to our caregivers, and it responds to them, their veterans, and community agencies when they call. This caregiver support line is staffed by social workers, so they get it. They can speak through some of the things that might be a trial and a tribulation. Right now, we have about 125 staff on the CSL. And then one thing that they do very well is provide information, and they connect caregivers to their local VA caregiver support teams. And then ultimately, they can provide a listening ear if that's what that caregiver needs at that time. Currently, our hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., and that's Eastern Time. Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., again, Eastern Time. Now, on 1 July, you folks will see a little bit of a shift and change in hours. It's not going to affect anything significantly at all, but the time will change on July 1st. You all will see that messaging going out on our website, and we'll give some heads up information about that the changes coming. Be looking for that in early July, if you will. The other things that our caregiver support line does is monthly education calls. So each and every month, our professionals are hosting these monthly education calls, and these caregivers can get in there both in English and in Spanish. Each and every month, there's a brand new topic. We calls as money management, burnout, caring for a veteran with mental health diagnosis. So the topics are endless, and if you were to go to our website right now, you would see the lineup of topics all the way throughout the year. So something to really take advantage of. What I really like about our public-facing website is even if you're not enrolled in VA or you're not officially a VA caregiver, still nothing from keeping folks getting on there and listening in and still learning about a caregiver role no matter where they're at. So now it's just one slide here. And bottom line is, how does a caregiver engage in many, many services that we have to offer? And what I've just shown you, it's kind of like just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more, but there are one of two ways that our caregivers can engage, all right? The caregivers can enroll in the program of General Caregiver Support Services, which PGCSS, I'll just continue to call that general for you all, or they can apply to and then be approved for the program of Comprehensive Assistance, which is PCAFC. All right, again, I'll call that one comprehensive. The first one I want to cover is our general. So what you see here is kind of a snippet of our one pager, which you would find online. It walks you down through the process, but the general program, veteran must be enrolled in VA healthcare. So if the veteran is not, that's the easiest thing to do. Just get to a VBA, get to a local medical center, VA medical center, and get these veterans enrolled in healthcare. The veteran must need some sort of assistance with ADLs or supervision or protection. And the teams can help walk through, what that looks like and the language surrounding that. And then a veteran must agree to receive care from the caregiver. What I would say is, like, I, as a veteran, I go into my VA to see my primary care doctor, and I could take my spouse with me to get her enrolled as a caregiver as I would need that. So that's just one way to do that. Some of the services as a part of the general program, and they include what I've already covered, which you saw over the last several slides, but there's also skills training, and then there's clinical services to support caregiver health and well-being, and also the respite. The respite isn't just kind of targeted for the comprehensive, the more serious injured veterans. Respite is also equipped for our general caregiver program as well. The enrollment process, and if I could put one word on this slide, it would be simple. The process to enroll in PGCSS is very simple. All you need to do is contact a local CSP team. There's no formal application that's required. Basically, you complete a brief intake and then a caregiver assessment with the local, which actually the local CSP team will do, and the CSP team will then understand the veteran and the caregiver's needs and go from there. So from there, the team helps the caregiver engage with the available resources and support. So the next program is the more comprehensive, the larger program, the one where to be eligible, there are certain criteria that one must meet. So let's talk about that next and all the things that are included with it. So up here on the screen, again, there's another snippet of one of our fact sheets, and there's a link there. I don't believe these slides are live for you all, but we have this information on our final slide as we come closer to it. And then there's also, you can kind of get your cell phones ready for a QR code that'll be on that final slide too. So you all can scan that QR code. It'll take you directly to our website, and you can see all of what I'm talking about. There are 7 eligibility requirements to meet the criteria for this program. And I do want to go over those just so that you hear those. And then as you see them again, it'll be more and more familiar. But the individual is either a veteran or a member of the armed forces undergoing a medical discharge from the armed forces. The individual has a serious injury incurred or aggravated in the line of duty, in the active military, naval, or air service. For purposes of the comprehensive, serious injury means any service-connected disability that is rated at 70% or more by VA, or is a combined rating with any other service-connected disability or disability, and the combined rating of 70% or more is assigned by the VA. One of the third requirements, the individual is in need of in-person personal care services for a minimum of 6 continuous months based on any one of the following, and that's an inability to perform an activity of daily living or a need for supervision, protection, or instruction. Fourth, it's in the best interest of the individual to participate in the program, and those are medical decisions that are being made. 5, personal care services that would be provided by the family caregiver would not be simultaneously and regularly provided by or through another individual or entity, meaning the caregiver is the sole caregiver and there's not somebody else out there doing it for the caregiver. 6, the individual receives care at home or will do so if VA designates a family caregiver. And then finally, the individual receives ongoing care from a primary care team or will do so if VA designates a family caregiver. In addition to the services and supports that we've already covered, so everything in the general program is obviously available to the comprehensive, but there are more for those who participate in the comprehensive program, and they'll have access to enhanced respite care, which again is paid, is being brought into the home. A lot more detail with that respite program. There's counseling. There's beneficial travel which you may be familiar with through local VAs and veterans receiving Benny Travel. Well, this is for caregivers Benny Travel. There's a monthly stipend that comes with that comprehensive program, and then also if a caregiver or family member happen to be uninsured, there's Champ VA access as well. And there are things that are on our website to specifically talk through that. And then also something that we've just launched over the last year is legal and financial planning services, and that's for our primary family caregivers only. And it includes simple wills. They can help with advanced directives. There's debt and credit management, and there's also a 90-day financial coaching. Now, I did say that this is for our primary family caregivers and comprehensive. However, what we've just done recently is begun sharing our educational videos with all caregivers, and those are available on our website. So any caregiver in our program, or just somebody out there in general, can look onto these videos and learn a little bit more with some of the education techniques around finances and legal part. And then there's the process. And again, this is a 10-step process. I mean, I can't put the word, simple on this slide, but the process is important. We have to have things in place. And if you remember from the history slide, this was all public law. So we didn't sit around in a room and just kind of write this out. This is public law signed by, our leaders. And this is a part of the process. They must complete the 1010 CG and submit it. You can see here on the slide the steps that are on that application process, but there's a fact sheet available on the website describing these a little bit more in detail. And then the online process, folks can call the caregiver support line. We welcome that anytime. We also welcome them to get a hold of their local caregiver support teams as well. But the online process, I would tell you hands down, is the most efficient way to do that. It just streamlines the process for everyone versus 2 or 3 moving parts. So if you know folks that are applying for the program, please just guide them to our online process, and that'll take care of itself. And then we have what I just said, our CSP team. And folks, that's one of our best resources. Those are our people. Our caregiver support teams are there for our caregivers and so much more. These teams use a person-centered approach, and they meet the caregivers where they are and help them connect to the right resources and services for them. Not for everyone, but for them individually. We do have a team at every single medical center, and they're available to help caregivers navigate the ups and downs of this caregiving journey. And I think like our caregiver support teams, for instance, one of them just within the last month, they're out of VA Eastern Kansas healthcare system, and they've been supporting a caregiver. Her name is Norma, and they've been with her for several years. Well, Norma's husband is Colonel retired Donlin, and just recently, Colonel Donlin passed away. Well, it just so happens to be that Colonel Donlin was the first recipient of a Medal of Honor from Vietnam War, and also the first Special Forces soldier to be given that such award as a Medal of Honor. This team not only took care of them while Colonel Donlin was there, but they supported it after. They were all there during the service, which they actually reenacted a Arlington Cemetery burial at the Leavenworth Cemetery. So they were there by her side, and matter of fact, I mean, she had a necklace on, and her husband had given her that necklace, and basically the necklace said, "I can't do life without you." And she had mentioned with this necklace that was her message back to the caregiver support team there, that she couldn't have done life the same without them. So that touched me in a big way. I too was there, and just to see our caregiver support teams, and not just in VA Eastern Kansas, but across the nation, really adopt these families and bring them into their own and be there and support before, during, and even after the veterans' time is done. Next, and you can look over some of those testimonials, but thinking back where we started, with Cindy, and she learned about respite, which was her biggest need, and she learned about that through this program. Cindy knows when and who she can reach out to for help. She states that the caregiver support program and respite care have saved her marriage and they've strengthened her relationship with her son, Joe. And those two things mean a ton to me. There's a lot of strain that goes on with caregiving. And I'll tell you that my wife right now is caregiving for her dad. And I see it firsthand, up close and personal. And there is a lot of strain on that. So Cindy knew what it meant. We know what it means to get into the program. And folks, it can save marriages and really, really strengthen relationships. Cindy's able to focus on her own well-being now, which for her was taking care of their large property, a huge property, but she gets to do that now with her husband, take care of that. She's getting involved with past passions that she once had, music, crafts, there's so many other things. Notice I didn't mention church just yet. While we were interviewing, what I loved most about that interview was whenever Cindy mentioned respite for church, she said even though that she has respite care available for her son, they still take him to church each and every Sunday with them. So again, just a really neat interview with her. I can't wait to share that video in June with the rest of the country. But just think of the faith-based organizations that are out there and the difference that they're making in people's life. And they don't have to get Joe ready and into a van, wheelchair accessible, and get him into church, but they want to. And that just tells me that the community that they're involved in is that important to them. So that was her testimony. As you can see, the words from others that have walked through the program are on this screen. And then remember the question that we started with, right? So, do you believe you're a caregiver? After listening to all that we've just shared about the Caregiver Support Program and the many things that go on with caregivers, how many of you now would say that you are or have been at some point a caregiver in your life? Folks, you might be saying to yourself right now that this was really good information. But you might also be saying, I'm not a veteran, or the loved one in my life is not a veteran. What I say to you is that's true. All right. But the veterans and caregivers that are out there, folks, they're out there. They're your neighbors, they're your friends, they're your local church members. That list goes on and on. Many of them may not know or learn about this program, but what I say to you is perhaps it's you who lets them know about this program. We can't be all places at all time, but that's why we do this, so that we can reach out to folks like you, and you in the community can share this program with others. Even if you don't need it, we know there's somebody around you that does. So I'd say reach out to us, reach out to others, let them know they're not alone. And more importantly, neither are their caregivers. We're here to support them, right? You can reach out to our caregiver support line. You can find your local support team using our locator tool. Again, there's that QR code that's on the screen too. You can scan that and just start learning more. That said, I want to thank you for allowing me this time to share our program with you. And I cannot tell you how excited I am to work for this program, to help with changing lives and what's coming next and in the future for this great program. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Burke, for that very informative presentation. We appreciate it so much. All of that information was going to be so helpful for all of our audience. If you would need to reach out to the presenter, please see his point of contact information on the screen. If you can also reach out to our team for any information. We will provide our point of contact information on the screen as well. If you registered for this event today, we will provide you with today's presentation. A recording of this webinar will be provided on our website at a later date. Please subscribe to our website and Facebook for future webinars and information. This adjourns today's webinar. Thank you again, Mr. Burke, and thank you all for joining us today. Have a good day. Goodbye.